Chapter 10. Atlantis. Far from Inanna's Mediterranean voyage, Ares too was undertaking a treacherous ocean crossing, this one across the high seas of the Atlantic. In times long forgotten, this sea was littered with thousands of islands that formed the Atlantean Empire. Now only a few remain. For 5 days his ship had raced toward the fabled capital of Atlantis, leading a fleet of 17 other Atlantean vessels through rolling waves and unpredictable currents. On deck, the rush of wind and brine filled Ares' senses, a sharp reminder of nature's power. Atheros joined him at the ship's railing, carefully sidestepping the rocking hull. Ares caught the trace of a grin on his friend's face. "The Atlantean prince returns," Ares teased softly, recalling the days of their boyhood when neither gave thought to formalities. Atheros inclined his head. "The captain says we'll arrive within a few hours before sundown." Ares cast a playful glance his way. "Once you're king, consider changing the city's name. Having Atlantis the city and Atlantis the country is hopelessly confusing, especially with so many distinct provinces." Atheros' eyes sparkled. "My ancestors named both in pride, and now my father, he cannot even choose an heir. My brother Kalion and I are supposed to co-rule." Ares chuckled, imagining 2 stubborn youths pressed into joint leadership. "I've known you both since we were boys. I doubt you'll see eye to eye often." Atheros' posture grew thoughtful, gaze drifting over the trailing ships. "My father hopes we'll grow closer with age." They lapsed into a companionable silence, content with the rhythmic creak of the wooden hulls, a testament to Atlantean shipbuilding, their ancestors' legacy. Suddenly something stirred near the ship. "Look!" Ares pointed toward the broad, glistening back of a whale breaching the surface. Water spouted as it slid back into the depths, its tail flashed in the air. "A humpback," Atheros identified, shading his eyes to follow the magnificent creature. Ares exhaled in awe, then turned as his friend continued. "Do you know why the world's ships are now built as they are?" Ares shook his head, curious. "There was a time, millennia ago, when vessels used clanking machinery to ferry large cargoes and people," Atheros explained. "They filled the seas with noise and pollution, choking the whales' frequencies. Whales communicate across thousands of kilometers. Some of our researchers say it is like their own global network. The frequency of those mechanized ships cut them off from each other. Their numbers plunged." Ares stared at the water, as if searching for the whale again. "I never knew." "It wasn't during the Golden Age," Atheros said. "But eventually, my Atlantean ancestors pushed for laws to protect marine life. It took generations, yet humankind embraced travel powered by wind, solar, and water currents alone. Harmony was restored." Ares offered a thoughtful nod. "We're fortunate, born into an age with no war, no poverty, truly a time of peace." Atheros leaned against the rail. "And by the time the wheel of man turns to a darker epoch, we'll be long gone. We might be among the luckiest in history." Ares glanced at the horizon. "I hope we leave this world better than we found it, though that won't be easy." Atheros grinned. "A challenge for the next generation. Still, I'm committed to trying until my final breath." He straightened. "Let's warm up. I dread seeing what Kalion's done in my father's absence." Ares followed, giving the rippling blue waters one last look. As the day waned, the Atlantic calmed, mirroring the captain's prediction. The fleet slowed near Atlantis at sundown. Pale orange rays dipped behind them, while in front, hundreds of vessels traversed the busy waterways, granting priority to the royal entourage. Ares prepared his belongings, eyeing the city's distant silhouette. Over millennia, Atlantis stood as a formidable civilization and a key architect of the globalized world Ares now inhabits. Yet as the centuries passed and sea levels gradually rose, much of the kingdom was claimed by the ocean. Today, all that remains are a handful of scattered islands and the capital on the African mainland, a mere shadow of its former grandeur. Soon Atlantis revealed itself in magnificent detail, guarded by towering northern mountains and lush southern plains. Concentric rings of land and sea formed the city's foundations, each one bridged by shining arches. Walls of red, black and white stone encircled the rings, some inlaid with gold and silver that caught the last of the fading light. At the epicenter, the Temple of Poseidon soared. Its silver columns supported a golden roof that glowed as if borrowed from the sun. Ares let out a breath, half wonder and half nostalgia. Each time he returned, Atlantis felt like a place where the earthly and the divine overlapped. The fleet docked at a private military station just outside the main city walls. However, the ship carrying Ares and Atheros continued forward, navigating deeper into the city's heart. Passing under a towering statue of Poseidon, they sailed into the first ringed port. A swirl of bustling crowds, street music, and vibrant scents told of a thriving metropolis, but also revealed troubling changes. Ares saw ragged beggars, crumbling facades, and graffiti staining walls that once were pristine. Stories abounded of Atlantis' slow decay, a kind of hidden rot that might one day affect the entire world. While Ares longed to speak about it openly, he knew Atheros was aware. The prince had eyes too, and a seat in the monarchy. They navigated into the quieter second ring, a restricted port for royal and military use, where the water lapped softly under a deepening sky of blues and purples. Dock workers swiftly secured lines, and Atlantean sentries assembled to greet Atheros. Walking down the gangplank together, Ares noted how the guards parted in reverence for their returning prince. "You'll stay at the palace, I hope?" Atheros asked. "When my father returns, he will be eager to hear about Amazonia." Ares bowed his head in gratitude. "I'd be honoured." A short trek led them to the palace gates. Along the way, Ares studied the Temple of Poseidon again, its brilliant columns and carvings capturing the spirit of an empire that once embraced knowledge, creativity, and the sea's deep secrets. At the palace door, more sentries stood at attention, opening the grand entrance hall. Ares gave over most of his luggage to the staff, yet kept a tight grip on the strange device he had unearthed in Amazonia. Whether artifact or enigma, it felt more important than ever to keep safe. The Atlantean military stood as a highly coveted career choice. Each recruit was required to serve a 5-year term, at the end of which they receive a land grant and a pension. With every additional 5-year term, the rewards became more substantial, culminating in a remarkable honour package for those who fulfilled 20 years of service. Nightlife in Atlantis awakened beyond the palace walls. Music rose from taverns, torches lit the cobblestone lanes, and the city's famed revelry kicked into gear. Beneath it all, a creeping sense of unease lingered. A circular garden spanned part of the palace grounds, full of exotic blooms from all corners of the world. In the deepening twilight, a hooded figure stood beneath a drooping tree, watching the palace. Its occupant remained unseen, his eyes trained on the guards' routines, searching for weaknesses in the fortress's imposing structure. A silent observer biding time, while Ares and Atheros, oblivious to the stranger's presence, crossed the threshold into the palace that was at once splendid, and faintly haunted by its own unravelling future.